I feel across the board, no matter how spiritual you are, no matter how deep you're into the metaphysical things, ancestry, burning candles, we can all agree that cemeteries can be quite creepy. Just the thought of how many services happen here, how many burials, how many tears were shed, how many stories are in the ground right now, what spirits are floating around, what was left untold. Cemeteries can carry a heavy energy around it. But for this specific cemetery, what can make it so special? Because like I said, all cemeteries have dead bodies, flowers, caskets, tombstones. But what makes this St. Louis cemetery that spooky? Shouldn't it be just like the rest? Yes, until you buried the voodoo queen herself on the property. Then now it's just not a regular graveyard, but it's Marie LaVeau's territory, where she roams freely whenever she wants to. Hello you all, I'm BlaqueWitchYaya. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. And where else would the most haunted cemetery be located? Of course, in New Orleans. So don't be confused by the name. We are going to talk about the St. Louis Cemetery, but it is located in NOLA, baby. And it was established during the Spanish colonial period in New Orleans. It was built to accommodate the city's growing population and to address the issue of flooding in traditional below ground cemeteries. So originally, the deceased were buried below ground behind and beneath the St. Louis Cathedral, near the river by the levee, and in the St. Peter Cemetery. This quickly became a problem though, as bodies and caskets would simply float away during flash floods that happened all too often. And this cemetery quickly became the final resting place for many prominent residents of New Orleans, including politicians, artists, and voodoo practitioners. One of those voodoo practitioners being the queen herself, Marie LaVeau. So first, let's go over who is Marie LaVeau. You probably heard of this name, whether you're just starting out in spirituality or whether you just simply watched American Horror Stories. I'm sure you are familiar with Marie LaVeau. I have a full video on her, but I'm going to talk about her in this video as well, so it's easier to draw the connection between the haunted encounters and her backstory. So Marie LaVeau was into the mystical things, which is a reflection of her because majority of her life is a mystery itself. For example, her birth isn't even documented, but according to some math that was conducted by historians, it had to be in 1801. So most information I'm sharing has just been passed down, so there may be different variations of it, but this is just one of many. Marie was the first to be born free in her family. She is the daughter of Marguerite d'Arcantrell. Now y'all, these names are French, so I'm sure they have a beautiful pronunciation. Like I saw, Marie LaVeau is Marie LaVeau. I am a country Floridian, so Marguerite d'Arcantrell. Okay. So her mother was a free slave, and it's also mentioned that her mother was a mistress to her father, Charles LaVeau, a wealthy mulatto businessman. Now for the word mulatto, I feel like that word has been canceled, but yet I still hear it, so this is just information. I'm just going based off of what was provided. Marguerite gave birth to Marie at her mother's, Miss Catherine's home, and then returned to her relationship, leaving her daughter to be raised by her grandmother. And just rewinding just a bit, Marie's great-grandmother came to New Orleans as a slave from West Africa in the mid-1700s. Her grandmother, Catherine, was purchased by a free woman of color, and eventually Catherine was able to buy her freedom and build her small home in the French Quarter, where Marie LaVeau would be raised. Now, on August 4th, 1819, Marie LaVeau married Jacques Paris, a free man of color from Haiti and a cabinet maker, and they married right at the St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans. So it's funny that she will be buried in the same area. Marie's dad showed up to sign the paperwork for the marriage, and a week before the wedding, he even purchased her some property on Love Street, which is now North Rampart, as a wedding gift. But by 1822, Marie and her husband Jacques were living on Dauphine Street between Dumaine and St. Philip. Now here's where things get a little interesting. Most people say Marie and Jacques didn't have any kids, but church records from St. Louis Cathedral tell a different story. They mention two girls being baptized as their daughters, Marie Angélie Paris in 1823 and Félicité Paris in 1824. And here's the kicker. Félicité's record says she was baptized at 7 years old, which means she was born in 1817, 2 years before Marie and Jacques got married. Mysterious, but like I said, her life is a mystery, so not everything is documented correctly. And sadly, this is where the trail ends for those girls. girls. There's no other information about them out there. There is some more information about her daughter that we will discover later, but for this area in her life, is no one really knows. So Marie's life is already a bit of a puzzle with her missing daughters and all. And then Jacquees goes missing as well. No official record of his death, but according to Felicit's baptism record, he was already dead when she was baptized. So from there, Marie referred to herself as the widow Paris. And then by 1826, Marie falls head over heels again for a gentleman by the name of Louis, we will call him. This is his full name here. He is a wealthy white guy from a well-to-do family, and even though they couldn't legally get married at the time, they spent the next 30 years together. They even had a bunch of kids together. Now, we don't know where them first two went, but they had a lot of kids. Well, seven is still a lot. But unfortunately, 3 did not make it past infancy. Common stories share that Marie was a hairdresser to wealthy white ladies who spilled all their secrets to her while she worked her magic on their hair, but others think that it was actually Marie's daughter, Marie II, who was the real hairdresser. Either way, Marie was known for helping out people in need using her magic to make things right. And this is where she began to get her title as the Voodoo Queen. So let's dive a bit into the tales of Marie Laveau's followers and her mysterious gatherings in Congo Square. So Congo Square was not far from Rampart Street from Marie's place on St. Anne. So back in the 1800s, thanks to Côte Noire, Sundays and holidays were granted to the slaves in New Orleans. They used this free time to do all sorts of stuff, from tending to their gardens, fishing, making goods, selling goods, and trade. Now, a lot of them would head to St. Augustine's Church for their Sunday worship and then make their way over to Congo Square with their goodies to set up shop. But Congo Square wasn't just any old market, it was a real hub for the city's people of color. It was a spot where they come together to connect, celebrate, and hang out. Marie Laveau was a regular at these Sunday gatherings in Congo Square. She would be selling her gris-gris bags, offering up advice and help to her community, and just simply enjoying the festivities as well while helping others. The legends about Marie in Congo Square talk about her singing and doing her spiritual rituals and even conjuring up the great serpent spirit. But here's the thing, as interesting as the regular Sunday gatherings were, there was one night a year that was extra special to the Creoles who practiced voodoo, St. John's Eve. This night, also known as the Eve of the Fest of St. John the Baptist, was a big deal, dating back to ancient Celtic and pagan rituals. For New Orleans people, St. John's Eve meant coming together for some serious business. We're talking about ritual baths and sacred waters, gathering around bonfires, communicating with spirits, and all of the mystical things that you can think of. And who else would be leading the charge on this special night? Of course, Marie Laveau. She was the queen of these ceremonies, bringing in people together for a night of magic and mystery under the stars. Now, on June 15th, 1881, Marie Laveau died peacefully in her cottage on St. Anne Street, just a few months shy of her 80th birthday. New Orleans records prove that she was placed in the Widow Paris tomb, St. Louis No. 1 Cemetery. And let's talk about this cemetery. The St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 was originally used as a below-ground cemetery, but by 1803, the Spanish who ruled the colony from 1763 to 1803 had a set decree that all burials had to be above ground. Originally, the cemetery stretched across what is known as Basin Street. After the completion of the Condulet Canal, the grounds were cut in half in 1847. Many bodies were transported to the St. Louis Cemetery No. 2, directly behind the St. Louis Cemetery. But as railroad lines were built in place of the canal, various caskets were found. Eventually, St. Louis Cemetery and its above-ground tombs became standard to New Orleans. However, many of the old below-ground cemeteries still remain where they were today. St. Louis Cemetery has strong ties to voodoo, culture, and spirituality. Visually, you can see that Marie Laveau's tomb is adorned with offerings, candles, and graffiti marks, which serves as a focal point for voodoo practitioners seeking her intercession. Many believe that Laveau's spirit continues to watch over the cemetery and its visitors, and her tomb is said to be a site of spiritual power and reverence. Her brightly colored clothing and red and white turban are hard to miss as she suddenly appears and then vanishes in plain sight. Like many historic cemeteries, St. Louis Cemetery is surrounded by tales of ghostly encounters and paranormal activity. Visitors have reported strange sounds, feelings of being watched while exploring the cemetery. Some believe that the restless spirits of those buried within the walls roam the grounds, while others attribute the hauntings to the powerful energy of voodoo rituals performed there. Like I said, many people would go to her gravesite to seek her energy, to seek her knowledge. And you know, when you do rituals, it's all about location and how you feel. So instead of doing it at home, some people are like, you know what, let's just go to the cemetery and see if we can give her an offering and utilize some of her energy. There are even reports of visitors visitors experiencing sudden feelings of illness or discomfort while in the vicinity of the tomb. These symptoms range from nausea, dizziness, headaches, fatigue with no apparent physical cause. Several visitors have reported hearing strange voices or whispers coming from the area around the tomb. These voices are often described as faint and indistinct, adding to the eerie atmosphere of the cemetery. While less common, there have been occasional reports of seeing ghostly, shadowy figures near Marie LaVeau's tomb. These sightings are typically fleeting and difficult to confirm, but it's been told by so many that it's hard to deny. So one of the most intriguing customs surrounding Marie LaVeau's tomb is the tradition of marking it with 3 X's while making a wish or asking for a favor. So you'll be able to see a bunch of X marks made by people. Not sure if it's still there, if it's been cleaned up, but from the pictures I've seen, there are a bunch of random X marks. And according to this legend, if your wish comes true, you're supposed to return to her tomb and leave a gift as a thanks. Like I said, anytime you're asking for a favor from an ancestor, an orisha, a spirit, whoever, once they give it to you, or some people even do it before, you want to make sure you thank and pay spirit to keep everything balanced. But sadly, this tradition has led to a lot of vandalism. One being someone painted the tomb a Pepto-Bismol pink, and as a result, the leaders of the cemetery decided to close off the cemetery to the general public after March 2015. Nowadays, only those on licensed tours are allowed inside. But even with the new rules in place, visitors still report experiencing eerie phenomena at Marie LaVeau's tomb. People have described feeling like they've been touched suddenly, falling ill, for no apparent reason, hearing voices. Hearing her voice just sounds like a wise older woman, but yet with a soothing voice. So even though it comes out of nowhere, you're not scared because the voice seems to be so soft. And they attribute that to Marie LaVeau being very good with her words and being able to communicate with people that she's helping. So she's doing the same even in the afterlife because she doesn't want to scare the people that's paying respects to her. It seems that even in death, the Voodoo Queen continues to mystify and intrigue those who seek her out. So even though Marie LaVeau's tomb is cut off, many people will go on a tour just to get as close as possible and do like a mental ritual in their head while they're close to it because they don't know when that's going to happen again. So if any of you have visited the St. Louis Cemetery and seen the tomb of Marie LaVeau, let me know how your experience was, or do you know someone who passed by, got an eerie feeling? Are you too scared to go? Let me know down below, and let me know of any other cemetery that I should cover that has a haunted feel to it. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this video, and like I always say, as above so below, as within so without, as the universe of the soul. Until next time, you guys, I share.